Welcome to The Dental Brief, the podcast that delivers actionable insights and expert strategies to help dental professionals like you grow, lead, and succeed. I'm your host, Patrick Shavasty, the president of Omni Premier Marketing. Every week at The Dental Brief, we bring you real conversations from expert speakers that offer expert advice and quick tips that make a real difference in practices nationwide. Whether you're a general dentist or run a multi-location practice, we've got you covered with content that's designed to help you attract more patients, to streamline your operations, reduce headaches in managing your practice, and increase your profitability. If you're ready to elevate your practice, be sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and let's dive into today's episode of The Dental Brief. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Dental Brief. Excited for today's guest. Always excited when a dentist comes on to share with us, giving us that valuable time and putting back into the community. So I appreciate that. Dr. James Sanderson, say hello to everyone.
Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, grateful to have you here. You know, for those of you that are listening, we've got some great Alabama swag going on in the background behind Dr. Sanderson. I was checking out the bio. You go check it out. It's pretty fascinating. His collegiate background is pretty amazing. I think a lot of people will be interested in that. A lot of other people are going to be interested in dentistry and what we have to talk about today. So, Dr. Sanderson, give us your background. Tell us, how'd you get involved? How'd you become a dentist?
Was going to be an athletic trainer, and then Joe Volker came into my life, Dr. Joe Volker, and turned me towards dentistry. My father was a dentist, and I wasn't going to do dentistry, but Dr. Volker kind of helped turn things around, and I spent 32 years practicing in Birmingham, Alabama.
Wow. And so throughout those years of practice, I'm sure you've seen a lot of things. I'm sure a lot of things were true today that were true 31 and a half years ago as they were 15 years ago. There's other challenges, problems that are brand new. You know, it's your time. You get to pick what we're going to talk about. Tell me, what are some challenges and problems that you see that dentists are facing today?
Well, you know, everybody wants to make more money faster, you know. I mean, it's always been the case. And dental implants, if done right, can be one thing that can add to your bottom line really pretty significantly. But you've got to get in and you got to learn and do it right.
Yeah. So what's some of the problems with that? Because I do see this happening. I see it not just in implants. I see it happen in TMJ. I see it happening in sleep, where, you know, practice is not really bringing in the type of net profits that they need to. So the dentist says, hey, you know, I'm going to go learn this and we're going to bring all this into the practice. And then it never really comes to fruition. I'm thinking the same thing happens in implants. So tell me, how do you go from taking on wanting to learn implants to actually having a successful implant practice? What's the secret?
It's an attitude you got to have. Okay. If I'm cruising along and I want to add something, I've got to add it, you know, and we're going to do this. With dental implants, I started like the summer after I got out of dental school, took a course, was able to buy a kit, buy the implants, bring all that stuff home, and a one weekend course. And I said, okay, well, I won all these awards in dental school. I can do surgery. And so I was going to do that next week. I was going to do an implant number 7. And I laid the flap and there was no bone. And at the time, nobody knew how to grow bone laterally or any way. We didn't have anything to do that with. And it was just an abject, complete failure. Closed it up, did a bridge, moved on for the day. But I had to kind of rethink what I was doing. By the end, we ended up putting together a great team with a specialist and myself. And I placed a lot of implants of my own. He placed the ones I didn't want to place. But then our team developed, you know, we did the first all-on-4 in the state of Alabama. We did the first teeth in an hour in the state of Alabama. We did a lot of FP1s kind of things. My practice was a Pankey practice. And so we did, you know, veneers and occlusion. And like you talked about the TMJ stuff, all that stuff was a part of it. But it's the mindset that you have to get in here and you have to go learn and figure out, okay, how do I put this into my life? How do I get this in? How do I get my team? because you can't make it work if your team doesn't go along with you. If the team doesn't go, it's not going to work. And so you got to have the right people around you in your practice. All of that's got to be the case.
So where do you start? Where do you start with, let's talk about team. So you want to bring on something like dental implants. You want it to be a big part of your practice. Where's the first place to start getting your team ready or getting them on board or both?
Well, it's one of the things that I've retired. And when I retired, about a year and a half into my retirement, Steve Bogan, the CEO at BioHorizons, asked me if I wanted to be a mentor, which I said, that's a written down goal that I do. He said, well, I'm talking about putting you on airplanes and all this kind of stuff. And so I spent about 7 years working for BioHorizons after I retired. I didn't think I was going to work again ever. Wasn't really planning on it. And really got to be involved in a lot of implant training and be around in practices where things were going well and where things weren't going well. And last October, I retired again. But the phone still rings some, and I'm happy to be a part of helping to, kind of get started and then figure out, okay, where do you want to go? Do you want to be doing singles? Posterior singles? Is that what you want to do for your practice? Is that all you want to do? Because if you add singles to your practice and you do it right, you can place an implant in 15 minutes and be done. And there's nothing else in dentistry that you can do that makes that amount of money in that short period of time, and
Sure.
you're done. Now, you spend a lot of money to learn how to do that, but you make the money back.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. You're working on buy-in from your team. You're getting that in order. Your next step is to really get great at doing implants. Let's just talk about single implants. When you don't have a ton of patients coming in, right, or you don't have enough patients to put implants into, how do you get better at it? Like, how do you get confident in your craft and what you're doing? How do you sleep at night in those first few cases until you really become an expert at this?
I did 3-unit bridges all the time. We replace teeth all the time. And it's a mindset of having, am I going to place an implant for a single missing tooth, or am I going to do a 3-unit bridge? And it took me a while to make the right decision about that. But that's the thing to do. And so you're just, as your patients are coming in, it's just part of, you see people that are missing teeth or have to have a tooth taken out, making the commitment, you're going to graft everything, every tooth that comes out gets a graft, and then 3 months down the road, you're ready, or 2 or 3 months down the road, you're ready to put an implant in that spot. And it's just having that mindset and saying, I'm going to do it. And that's the whole thing, instead of just, well, I don't, do you want to do this or not? You have that attitude, it's not going to happen.
Sure. Yep.
And it's the best thing for your patient.
Yeah. Let me ask you this kind of complex question. You're ready to get started. You're just getting started. There's a lot of vendors in the implant space, as you know, right? There's a lot of lab that goes into this, right? There's working with suppliers. There's working with actual implant companies. There's working with sales reps at implant companies. How do you navigate this? How do you build a team, a support team around you to help you make the best decisions for you and your practice when you're jumping into implants?
If you're at ground zero, you need a mentor to help you figure out how to do that. And that's where I would just suggest that you start. I've been to every course that's out there in the last several years. And, depending on what you're trying to do, we can get you into the right course. But it's coursework. It's having somebody to walk along beside you and that's willing to spend some time with you. I think that's, if I'd had something like that, it would have really helped me. It would have helped me tremendously in my practice. And it's been great to help a bunch of people since I quit practicing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when people hear mentor or they hear a coach, they start to think, oh gosh, this is going to be expensive. I think not using a coach or a mentor, not having that help is way costlier. And you have to go through it before you know it for sure. But in my opinion, it's always costlier. It's way cheaper to learn from other people's mistakes than it is from your own mistakes. So I know that you help with professional development, you help with personal development, you help on the clinical side of it, which I think a lot of coaches kind of stop there. A lot of coaches in the
Right.
industry help with the business development and team, but they really can't dive deep into clinical. And then, of course, just leadership and training, right? So, and by the way, you can find out more information about Dr. Sanderson on his website, drjamessanderson.com. Give it a look. So let me ask you this question, non-biased answer, of course. I know that you'll give one. When you're trying to find a coach, when you're trying to find a mentor, and it doesn't matter if it's implants, it's anything in life, what are some things that you should ask? How should you go about vetting someone and finding the right person to work with?
Well, I think depending on your personality, you and look at the people that are around you. I think you need to have, if you're a general dentist, you need to have special friends for special problems. Sometimes this patient needs something special, and that's why you have a friend that's a specialist that you don't call when you're in a jam.
Sure.
You have a relationship with, and it's an ongoing kind of thing. You take them to lunch, and just the people around you to start with, if nothing else. I'm happy to help, and the people at All Star Dental are happy to help as well. You know them very, very well, Eric Vickery and
Yep.
Heather and all that whole team is just, they sort of taking me under their wing.
Yep. So I think most of our listeners know who they are, but if they don't, allstardentalacademy.com, check them out. Great training, coaching, team training. And I know you're a recent addition to really bring in a lot on that clinical side, which I think is fantastic and a great help there. So you can check out All Star Dental Academy site. You can also check out drjamessanderson.com. Dr. Sanderson, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today. We appreciate it.
If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out to Heather at allstardentalacademy.com, and she can make that work. Happy to help. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dental Brief. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a colleague who could benefit. We're here to help dental professionals like you stay ahead of the curve, one brief episode at a time. You can find more episodes and resources at thedentalbrief.com. You can also join the Growth-Minded Dentist community on Facebook. Links are in the description. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and thanks for being part of the Dental Brief community.